of it is, what they did is this. You see where the arch pieces contact the canyon walls? The supports just above them there? During early construction, they ran about 200 feet higher than the roadway. And from those higher pylons, they brought huge cables out to hold the arch pieces in place as they poured the cement toward the middle. They bought these big sliding forms from a Chinese company. So they slid toward the middle, capped it off. Once they capped the middle, that center cap puts pressure on the whole structure, pushing it against the canyon walls and makes it a very secure bridge. It was fascinating to watch them do that from down here, believe me. So anyway, we are going to talk a bit about the river, the canyon, as well as the dam. Speaking of which, did you folks hear what the fish said when he hit the wall? What was that? You got it. Very good, Florida. He said dam. And speaking of the Hoover Dam, its construction took place between 1931 and 1935. That was Depression-era America. There were a lot of folks out of work, about a quarter of the nation's workforce. So there were a lot of folks, a lot of gentlemen in this case, ma'am, who were willing to work and work darn hard. Notice I didn't say damn hard.
Damn hard.
As a result of that, and some incentives given the 6 companies that built Hoover Dam, it was completed 2 years ahead of schedule and under budget. So imagine that, a very timely, cost-effective, and worthwhile government project. Things don't always go that smooth. We'll talk about that. But at the time the Hoover Dam was built, it was the tallest in the world. 726.4 feet high, 660 feet thick at the base, 45 feet wide at the top. It's kind of a huge curved cement pyramid. Speaking of that curved or concave shape side to side, again, that's arch gravity construction. That just means the water that fills up on the other side firmly holds that curved dam to the canyon walls. Very little leakage, or what the Bureau of Reclamation prefers to call seepage. I realize there seems a world of difference between those two terms, leakage and seepage, so I just thought I'd make a distinction.
Okay.
In fact, while I'm making distinctions, I should point out, we just launched from the state of Nevada. Across the river is the state of Arizona. And we are floating on the border between the two, unofficially known as the state of confusion. Well, think about it. It's not one state, it's not the other, and yet it's both. There we go. So I hope I've cleared up that issue once and for all. Now anyway, otherwise or officially speaking of that state of confusion as the Colorado River, in order to first begin construction on the dam, something had to happen to this river for the first time in 5 million years on its present course. It had to be redirected or diverted by man. So what they did, they dug these 4 what were originally diversion tunnels, built temporary rock or coffer dams on either side of the present location to block the river, move it through the tunnels, and begin construction on the dry river bottom. So by 1935, the project was basically complete. Then they could convert the 2 inner tunnels to take in water from the 4 cylinder-shaped intake towers on the other side. They're 40 stories tall or deep. They take water in, run it through the turbines to generate power. It comes out these 2 inner lower portal ends. But the outer portals were converted into 4,000-foot-long spillways. And why? Remember, we're floating on melted snow from the Rockies. Every year there's a big snowpack and snowmelt, some bigger than others. To control for the very big ones, the outside tunnels act like the holes in the back of your bathroom sink. When the water gets so high on the other side, it comes down these 2 50-foot diameter tunnels. So what they did then, from the completion year of 1935 till 1941, 6 years it took for the Colorado to fill up Hoover Dam, creating Lake Mead, the largest man-made lake in this region, 550 miles of shoreline. So by 1941, the water was rising up over the mouths of these outer tunnels, 500 feet higher on the other side. Catch that high water, bring it down to river level. In 41, those spillways worked just as planned. But then something happened for the first, so far the last time, in 1983. That year, there was an unusually heavy snowpack in the Rocky Mountains. Late, heavy, and warm rains and a huge snowmelt. So again in '83, that water came down these spillway tunnels, I was out here about that time and took a tour of the Hoover Dam, and I'd never seen Lake Mead so high. Now, ma'am, folks, the water on the other side wasn't quite dam high, but it was darn close.
Yeah.
At one point, it was about 35 feet or 12 meters from the top. If not for these spillways, it'd have come right over. That's why they're there. But a fellow pilot of mine by the name of Bill Harlan was in the area in '83 visiting friends. And old river rat Bill, recently retired, had the chance to come right down here that year, witness the water coming out of these spillways and what he described as a deafening roar. He said you couldn't even hear yourself think. And that continued from the spring, summer, until the fall of 1983. Also that year, that water brought down or washed down these tunnels a monster in the form of striped bass. This is not a fish story. Up to 3.5 feet long, over 2 feet wide in the middle. Some that weighed around 50 pounds when they were alive are mounted on the walls of the Willow Beach store. There's also the picture of the known Arizona and world record striped bass caught in these very waters. 67.1 pounds. That's a lot of striped bass. Caught by one Jeff Smith.